Welcome back. We bring you all the most important and breaking news from Capitol Hill whenever it comes in. As we mentioned just before we went to break, the House failed to pass an amendment by Kentucky Republican Tom Massie to cut off aid to Israel. More than 100 Democrats voted for it. Only Massie, as a Republican, voted in favor of it. All the other Republicans, no. I want to turn to our political panel. Democratic strategist, former press secretary to then Vice President Joe Biden, Kendra Barkoff Lamy, and Republican strategist, and former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence, Marc Short. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Major.
Marc, give me your analysis of this vote. So, Massie by himself, Republicans clearly whip this, leave him on his own, and see what the Democrats do among themselves to fight this out.
Well, look, I think that this close to election season, when Thomas Massie's not well liked in the conference, there's no doubt they're very comfortable with him offering this on the floor, believing that this is what a lot of Democrats would vote exactly as they did. And I think that the Democrats have a growing anti-Semitic problem in their caucus. And it's only going to get worse when a lot of these Democrat socialists that they've been pushing forward have won nominations will likely be there next year.
I want to clarify, because do you believe any vote that questions U.S. aid to Israel is by definition anti-Semitic, or could it be a policy disagreement with the sitting Israeli government?
It can be a policy disagreement, but I also think they have an anti-Semitic problem. I think you have people who have basically been nominated this cycle in their party who have basically called for the end of Israel. You have people in their party who have gone further than just saying they want to cut off aid to Israel. So this creates the dichotomy that Republicans want to say, we stand with Israel when Democrats don't.
Kendra?
I mean, I just can't. I don't go with that viewpoint. I would just say, I worked with the survivors of that were held hostages and those family members.
After October 7th.
After October 7th. And we met with more Democrats than Republicans. And I don't think that happens with anti-Semitic members of Congress. And so I think there's a lot of people in Israel that live there that have a lot of different religions. I think this is not a political decision in terms of them being anti-Semitic. I think that they just don't like what the current prime minister is doing.
So there's a lot of Democrats who certainly are not anti-Semitic. But are you suggesting you don't have a problem with anti-Semitism in your caucus?
Well, the Republican Party doesn't have necessarily absolutely clean hands on this either.
I agree with you, Major. I think there's a growing concern on the right, too. I think a lot of the followers of Tucker have demonstrated
Carlson.
that. Yeah. So I concur with that. But
okay.
I think that there's a more significant challenge with elected officials in the Democrat Party, not just podcasters on the right.
Kendra, there was a release today from the former president about a book that's coming out after the midterms. Let's play it.
I've written a book about my time as president. It's called Promise Me America. It's coming out in November, and it's available for pre-order now. It's about the challenges we faced as a nation, about the decisions I made, and why I made them.
Kendra, that's the best version of that. It always is. It still sounds a little rough to listen to.
Yeah, I think clearly he has aged and his health is in decline. We know that he's made his cancer public, and he's obviously going through treatment is what I can assume. And, he has made the conscious choice for this book to come out after the midterms, and I think that was
to the great relief of many Democrats.
Smart thing for him to do, and I think the Democrats are very happy that is coming out after the midterms. I think look, Joe Biden served as a public servant for almost 50 years. He did that because he wanted to make the country better. And at the end of the day, he has a truth that he wants to tell, and he should be able to talk about it in the way he wants to talk about it.
I'm going to skip over you on this, Marc Short, not because I don't think you have something valid to say, but because I want to have something that is more personal to your relationship with the former Vice President Mike Pence, because he was raised by J.D. Vance, because he recorded podcasts with Joe Rogan and name-checked your former boss. So let's listen.
If you look at what Mike Pence or some of the conservative hawks, like people who voted for us but have been very critical of me, very critical of the administration, if you actually look at what they're proposing, they just want the military campaign to go on forever, and they can't actually identify what it is that they're trying to accomplish.
Marc Short, the floor is yours.
Well, look, I think that it's odd that he's name-checked the former vice president in a couple recent interviews. It shows an incredible amount of sensitivity appears on his part. I know.
What do you think that's about?
I know how hard the job is to be vice president of the United States, and I think that Mike
especially
Pence,
under this president,
certainly, especially under this president, Mike Pence does. And I think there are a couple times when Donald Trump asked Mike to go renegotiate the Remain in Mexico policy. 2, when Erdogan was slaughtering Kurds and crossed the border, he asked Mike Pence to go to Turkey and help solve that. So he knows what's been asked by the president to go do these tasks. I think perhaps he's a little bit sensitive that his effort to appease the greatest sponsor of terrorism in the world is not really working, because it's hard to explain why. Appease Iran. I mean, it seems.
Vice President Vance.
Yes,
Just so I'm clear with what you're saying there, what you're throwing down.
It was his plan, and I think clearly now the president's begun to turn away from that. So it seems like there's a remarkable, I think, insecurity about what his own position has been.
Kendra, you just heard it.
Well,
Republican infighting. There was Democratic infighting on the one topic. There's Republican infighting right here, right now.
I'd actually say it's additionally insulting because the vice president has family members who are serving in uniform now. To suggest he wants eternal wars is ridiculous.
Kendra, you got 10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I think throw Marc Rubio in the mix and you'll have a whole lot of fun. But I do think that there's some competition there, and Vance's ego is clearly very bruised.
Ego, politics. Never heard of it. Marc Short, Kendra Barkoff Lamy, thank you so much.